Good morning. I'm former Secretary Edwin Lacierda from Pinoy's Administration.
Masantos siya kapusan at sige namin, naimbag na bigat tayo amin apo. Magandang morning Pilipinas! Nani Agsalud Braganza po, President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo sa Administration.
And we are the Spokes. From the panel thoughts, then to our group chats now.
We'll be giving you conversations that will make you think and assess.
So that you could come up with your own personal opinion.
Ang kulit ng partner ko.
In the headlines noted by the Spokes, DPWH engineer Karen Consino del Valle of Catarman, Samar was shot dead in broad daylight yesterday by an alleged active member of the Philippine Army.
Ano sa tingin mo?
You know, when I saw this, I was medyo, what is this all about?
Well, technically breaking news nga raw to kagabi because the victim is a DPWH official.
Okay.
So probably all along they thought it has something to do with the flood control. Love triangle pala.
Ah.
So medyo yung epekto ng flood control medyo kumakalat at alam mo na.
So akala nila flood control.
Hindi naman pala.
Kulang pala sa control sa pag-ibig, ano? Pero anyway, but this is a serious issue, no?
Yeah,
But this is really a violence against women situation where talagang pag ganitong situation talagang medyo sobra talagang
Sobra.
ang inaapi ang mga ating kababaihan eh.
This was done in public, although nagbigay na ng pabuya ata yung dalawang government officials para mahuli yung perpetrator ng krimen na to.
So apparently si DPWH Secretary Vince Dizon stepped in, no?
Yes.
And offered a 200,000 together with Congressman Paul Daza. Offered a 200,000 reward for information on the suspects. No?
Well, sana nga makamit ng pamilya ng biktima yung hustisya. Di ba? In this particular instance.
All these things takes more emphasis and relevance because it's a International Women's Day, International Women's Month. No? But we shouldn't be celebrating just for 1 month. It should be a daily celebration on the respect and reverence that we have for our women folk. No? So talagang, medyo nabigla lang talaga
Unahin
ako.
ko na misis ko.
Yes.
Di ba? Talaga 365 days yun a year. Di ba?
Pero sila naman talagang di ba?
Aminin mo na under desire tayong dalawa. Dahil pa sinabi. Diyos ko. Di ba?
Okay. For our next headline noted by the Spokes, kapit mga ka-spokes. It's not 10 to 20 pesos per liter, but 17 to 24 pesos per liter of fuel price hike this week. So, naglagay ka naman ng gas kagabi?
Well, yes, we did. Pangalawa, scheduling ng gamit ng sasakyan.
Right.
Kailangan, di ba? Pangatlo, patayin lahat yung hindi ginagamit ng mga sa bahay, electric fan, etc. At ito, lumabas ako kayo na sa garahe natin eh. Kinento sa akin, tinanong ko yung mga news team natin. Sabi nila kagabi, hindi lang mahabang pila. May mga nagsuntukan na at may mga nagkambanggahan na doon sa mga pila sa gasolina. So, that's the effect of this crisis in our country right now.
I came from a wake last night, and when we were going home, we passed through several gas stations. And true enough, what you're saying, there are long lines already in the gas stations now.
At saka kwanto kung social media to, viral to, yung pagtaas ng presyo ng gasolina. Because everyone's talking about it.
Right.
Yun nga, pinag-uusapan yung pagtaas ng presyo. At the same time, gaano kaya katagal itong problema to?
The nice thing about it is that si Secretary Sharon Garin mentioned that the oil companies agreed to stagger the increases.
Yes.
And we don't, tama sabi mo, we don't even know when this will end. So the prospect of prices continue rising will be there.
Hindi lang gasolina to, prices of commodities. It will impact utilities. It will impact on that one also. Tulad nga ng sinabi mo kahapon, paano yung mga lower income bracket families? Di ba? How will they mitigate the impact of this problem?
You know, yesterday we were talking about si Secretary Petilla about targeted subsidies. Ano problem? Sa akin, okay yan. In principle, maganda siya. But I remember nung in-implement yung train law the first time, nagkaroon ng excise tax, gumawa ang Duterte administration ng magandang program called pantawid pasada
Yes.
at targeted subsidies.
Yes.
The problem with that, however, and this is the caution that I give to government, it will take in the situation with the pantawid pasada, ganun din, targeted subsidies sa jeepney, tricycle, and all that. You know how long it took them to achieve makuha lang ng mga drivers yung voucher na yun, yung subsidy? 2 months.
2 months, okay.
It took them 2 months to enforce that pantawid pasada voucher. So, we should tell government to make sure that if you're going to do targeted subsidies, you better make sure that you implement it fast. Because in the case of the train law, pantawid pasada, it took them 2 months. So, but now you're looking at, you're now looking beyond drivers, public transport. How about the Grab drivers? The other thing mentioned, and I remember what you're saying, we're talking about food security.
Yes.
If you're talking about food security, how about also vouchers for transport, food transports? Di ba? Tracking. Kasi hindi kasama yan. Pero yun, ang laki ng porsyento ng gastos. So you're saving the public riders, mga passengers, from a high cost of transportation. But yung food natin tumataas. Kaya sabi ni Nani, tumataas dahil wala naman subsidy sa mga food transport eh.
Ito yung, sorry, my apologies.
No, but I think you should really come up with a very comprehensive targeted subsidies if you don't want. The other thing that ayaw naman talaga ng tao, yung general subsidy.
Yes.
Pero, but if you look at it, ang hirap mag-implement ng subsidies, it will take you time. And kung i-general subsidy mo, ilan lang ba yung mga mayayaman na sinasabi? 5% of the population, whereas 95% of our population is not that rich.
5%.
Diba? So,
of the 20 million families, 5% lang talaga.
If it's going to take you so long to target the subsidies and enforce that execution of that targeted subsidies, then you better rethink who should we subsidize and how do you enforce the execution part. It may not be the purpose might be good, but the enforcement part is a problem. Then better resolve the implementation.
The implementation and enforcement
stage, yes.
I do agree with Manong Edwin kasi ito yung panahon na sinabi natin kahapon na dapat maramdaman yung gobyerno natin. Because its impact is widespread. Tapos, pangalawa, alam din natin yung impact nito, mas grabe sa mga lower income family brackets. There's no definitive timeline.
Exactly.
As to when will this end.
Exactly.
Although sinasabi nila 4 weeks, but technically speaking, Iran is resilient against the power of the US and Israel. So, in that sense, we will really never know, di ba, kung ano talaga kung kailan matatapos to. So, government should be prepared.
You're right.
In handling this.
The other thing is, nagkaroon ng hearing yata yesterday. The total loss on taxes, revenues, is around 100-something billion.
Wow. Because of?
Because if you're going to suspend the taxes, the excise and the VAT, assuming you can, but if you lose that, wala kang pampondo ng services to the country. But, I mean, my goodness sake, in the flood control, every year we were over 300 billion were being stolen. My God, what about the 150 billion? And it will go to the people anyway.
Yes,
so is that, of course, the problem, kasi nga, si Ikot, wala na tayo sa gobyerno, wala tayong pakialam sa lost revenues eh. But that's a concern for government. But I think you should be also thinking about, are we willing to do that? Kasi walang katiyakan kung kailan ito matatapos eh.
Alam niyo mga kababayan, si Manong Edwin Sako, we were part of the cabinet before, under different administrations. But in crisis like this, hindi na tutulog yung mga cabinet members nito. At this point in time, kasi yung mga different clusters, economic, security, will kick in. Di ba? So, and problems like this, it's always a chicken and egg situation.
Correct.
Tatanggalin mo to para gumawa ng buhay, pero kailangan mo i-subsidize ito, di ba? Kailangan mo din mangolekta ng buwis. So,
it's a zero-sum game eh.
Zero-sum game. So, the government must be able to strike a balance, di ba? Para matugunan natin itong crisis na to.
Alright, so these are the headlines noted by the spokes today. We'll get to know the new Acting DENR Secretary Mitch Cuna on his very first one-on-one TV interview na talagang pinangako niya kay Secretary Nani Braganza when the spokes returned after the short break.
Okay.
And the spokes is back. The DENR is now under a new leadership at a time when issues like mining, climate risk, flooding, and environmental protection must be addressed head-on. Joining our discussion is newly appointed DENR Acting Secretary Juan Miguel Mitch Cuna. Congratulations.
And welcome Mitch to the show.
Pero sandali, ang bati niya sa'yo, anong bati mo sa mga bago appointed?
Ano na? Condolence.
Good morning, Sec Edwin and Sec Hernani. Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, good. Babalikan mo muna niya.
Sisingit lang ako You know, the price of oil per barrel has reached $110 ata. At nakikita natin yung economic impact sa atin at 10 to 30 pesos calibration. So imagine if it hits higher than 110, then more problems will come. So sana nga matapos na tong gera na
And
to.
all the more, dapat mas mabilis ang kilos ng ating gobyerno kasi walang katiyakan ng katapusan nito.
Yes,
Tama yung
yes,
sinasabi
yes,
mo
yes.
talaga.
And at the same time, that problem will impact on our new secretary. Kasi pag tumaas yung mga bilihin, and you know, I've been mayor, you've been a local officials, yung kaingin will come back because mahal ang gas. Yung mangroves, pinuputol yan kasi walang panggatong. So that's the net effect. Illegal activities kasi desperado yung tao.
Correct.
Illegal. Lahat yan. So may peace and order problem din nakaakibat ito. But anyway, welcome back, boss.
Thank you.
Okay.
Nangako yan. Bakit welcome back?
Okay. Welcome back again kasi kumata ko eh. Di ba?
No, but Mitch, you apparently were, I remember you were a councilor nga pala before.
Yes, I was in the 5th District of Manila for 2 terms.
But when we, ladies and gentlemen, nais ko lang ipagyabang na ang ating kalihim sa DNR ay isang Ateneo Law graduate.
Yes.
Bida muna sa aming eskwela. But anyway, so how long were you a councilor? And then why did you suddenly shift into DNR?
Actually, I tried my hand at Congress in the 2007 elections, and I was not fortunate enough to make it. And I was planning to practice law already, but Mayor Lito Atienza was my mayor during that time, and he was appointed secretary of the DNR in 2007, and he asked me to join him and to help out, and I've been there since.
You know, your image is one of the good guys. Kasi aral ka eh. You studied in Singapore,
Yes.
tapos sa US sa Harvard. Lee Kuan Yew School of
Public policy.
Public policy.
It was a scholarship granted. There's a process you had to go to. I just applied. Actually, one of the undersecretaries, one of my colleagues, was in that program the previous year, and he told me it's a good program. So I just tried my hand. And it's a very good program. The Lee Kuan Yew officials flew over after I sent a few essays and an application form, and they interviewed me here, and I took an exam, and I was fortunate enough to be accepted.
Congrats.
Yeah.
So you're very qualified to become secretary. And not because Big Subiri is your relative.
No.
He had nothing to do with it.
Correct.
No.
Migs, love you.
No, but you're first cousin.
No, he's my second cousin.
Second
His,
cousin.
mother and my father are first cousins.
Okay. So we are now in a situation where environmental protection and awareness is quite steep.
Yes.
And so there are questions right now. One of the questions I'd like to ask you, and you've been there in DNR for over 18 years.
Yes. Yes.
So there is a problem in agencies where they're both the promoter and the regulator. So like for instance right now, you have also a dual character. Yes. You are protecting the natural resources, but also you also promote extracting natural resources. So you've got the mining there, and then you've got the environmental protection. In different jurisdictions, for instance, in the United States, the U.S. has separate agencies, though. For environmental protection, they have the EPA, and for extraction of resources, it's the Department of Interior. Yeah. What is the better, in your mind, and you've been there for 18 years, is the situation within the DNR having a dual personality working for our country?
Well, I'd like to think so. There are sectors who say that it's schizophrenic, so to speak.
Right.
But I think understanding of both the utilization of natural resources and environmental protection by the same agency also helps. Nakakaroon ng balanse in terms of what we
How
see.
does one balance both protection and extraction?
Well, this is what we call the term sustainable development.
Yes.
Okay.
We realize development is necessary to help the economy, to help job generation. But we realize that if we don't protect our natural resources, mawawala rin po lahat to.
Yes.
I'll give you a case in point. We are not the agency in terms of promoting prime tourist destinations.
Right.
But it is our responsibility to ensure that they are compliant with environmental laws. If we think that tourism is one of our economic drivers, when local or foreign tourists come, they will look at compliance to environmental laws.
Yes.
Of course, we have to protect. A lot of visitors we have come here for our dive sites.
Yes.
If we don't protect our coral reefs,
Mawawala yung
our aquatic resources, hindi sila babalik. Ikakalat pa nila na hindi magandang patakbo dito. So,
Yes.
Para sa waterways ba, sa aquatic resources, may jurisdiction ba si DNR?
the Clean Water Act
Yeah,
is under the jurisdiction of the DNR. But the aquatic life itself, sa DA yun, sa
DA yun.
BFAR.
Okay, okay.
Talking about tourists kasi, the 100 Islands National Park in Alaminos Park is the home of giant taclobos. So,
Ano yun?
yung culture din, giant taclobos.
okay.
So one time, a foreigner extracted illegally kasi bawal by law. So we had to penalize this guy based on your laws.
Yes.
The minimum penalty was 150,000 pesos. Enforcement, it's an enforcement
yes.
issue. May mga pasaway din kasi, di ba? But mostly comply. What they appreciate about the many national parks in the Philippines is its beauty. So tama nga naman. Yung tourism at saka environment, they come together.
They should
diba?
complement one
They should
another
complement
rather
each
than,
other.
they're not
Yeah.
diametrically opposed.
Yes. I agree.
So you've been there for 18 years, so more or less you are very, very experienced. I'm sure that whoever comes in as the DNR secretary would always seek you out because you have institutional memory.
Yes.
So to your mind, what are the biggest challenges for you in the DNR?
Well, first of all, and I said this yesterday in our flag ceremony, there's a problem of trust. There's a problem of trust
Trust
of the public.
because?
No, of the public
And the agency,
government
yeah.
in general, and then also us, because it just so happens that our department is involved in almost anything, any project, any program that you see, you would need some sort of issuance from us, whether it's an environmental compliance certificate, a discharge permit for wastewater, a permit to operate for any emissions that any entity would have. So, pagka may nangyaring problema, of course, solid waste is another problem. Although, just to make it clear, and many may not know this, under the Solid Waste Management Act, it's the local government units that have jurisdiction over solid waste. But of course, we provide technical assistance and education where we can.
You studied in Singapore.
Yes.
Di ba? They have one of the biggest and most modern incinerators in the
Yes.
world.
I actually visited one of them. Yeah.
And the Philippines, we ban incineration. Di ba? Under our laws. But in the case of Singapore kasi, they burn their waste, generates electricity, tapos yung ash from out of it, ginagamit to reclaim and make Singapore a bigger country. So, yung mga gatong policies natin, when we adopt international standards, and yet sa Pilipinas problema ng waste management, and you let the local governments suffer the burden of cost, mahal yun when I was
solid
mayor,
waste.
yes, yung ang tawag doon sa basura na yon, na may lining.
Landfill. The landfill,
It's very expensive. And
But that's not under you. Ang landfill is not under
No,
DNR.
but they regulate
We
it.
regulate it. Yeah.
So ang problema kasi minsan, Mitch, sorry
Yes.
kaibigan ko kasi, Sec Mitch, gumagawa ng batas yung national government. Pero ang nag-i-implement local, which is understandable, nasa frontline kami. But the cost
Is borne by the
is
local.
borne by the local. Hindi naman pare-parehas kasi yung income ng mga local governments. Di ba? So, the idea of waste management, baka hindi matutupad because on affordability issue lang. And we get penalized for not implementing the law. So, how will you balance?
But just to recently, to talk about solid waste management, the city of Manila through Mayor Isko imposed a very huge cost for garbage collection.
Yeah.
So is that something something you can do? Because the rise was exponential.
Well, go ahead, Sec.
Well, in terms of, I think the local government units have a level of autonomy that, they feel. And I was told that it had been some time since the cost of the solid waste payments was adjusted. So, they needed that I was told. But just going back to your point on solid waste management for local government units, under the law, 5 years after the law was passed, so 2001, that's the first law that President Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo signed when she assumed office, dapat sarado na lahat ng dump sites. So dump sites are just talagang tinatapon lang doon pero walang engineering intervention, walang lining, as you mentioned, leachate ponds, etc. Should have been closed. It was difficult to close all of these because there was no alternative.
Yes.
Medyo, of course, may gastos to put up a landfill. Maraming LGU, wala namang lugar sa kanilang...
Walang lupa, walang pera. Yes.
Kung magpapadala sila to the nearest accredited landfill, malaki ang cost.
May bayad.
Right.
Yeah.
Malaki ang cost. So I think what we have to inculcate to our people, and it's been 25 years, we celebrated 25 years this year, is that you really have to exert effort also, the barangay level, households, you really have to segregate. Not just segregate, because merong mga staunch advocates of zero waste, meaning they claim that there should be nothing that comes out of your house. Everything can be recycled, reused, or composted.
Sorry.
No,
sorry,
go ahead.
Yes.
Ito, kung pag-uusapan natin modelo na city dito, Marikina. I mean, if you look at Marikina, walang basurahan sa harap.
Yes.
Nasa loob lahat. So, those you mentioned, segregation, nandun yun eh. But ang tanong ko kasi, saan dinadump ng Metro Manila yung waste niya?
Meron pong designated, the Metro Manila Development Authority designates landfills, accredited landfills kung saan magtatapon. Yeah.
Owned by the government or private sector?
May private, may private siya.
Private sector siya.
Are you a believer, advocate for circular economy?
Of course.
So how are we, can you please explain what the circular economy is?
Circular economy, it is from cradle to grave.
Right.
Anything that comes out, hanggang disposal, dapat merong sistema na ginagamit. I wanted to mention the Extended Producer's Responsibility Law dahil it, in a way, amended the Solid Waste Management Act by virtue of requiring, we call it obliged enterprises, lahat na may plastic packaging, you have to retrieve it. So, obligado ka yearly. So, since 2023, 20%, naging 40% 2024, tapos 50, 60, until 2028, 80%. So, and you will be heftily fined pag hindi nyo ginawa.
Where are we now?
We're in the 2026, so 60% already now.
Have we achieved that?
We're moving there. Ang maganda nito, since obliged itong mga malalaking mga kumpanya, obliged enterprises, we're trying to get all sectors in. Katulad ng mga informal waste sector. Kasi obligado rin mga to, at saka they will be penalized for that. So, pasok natin lahat para makatulong din sa, for job generation.
Yung isang problema daw sa Pilipinas kasi, di may batas tayo. And I would agree na we have enough laws. Di ba? But our laws are more on the enforcement side para sumunod yung tao compliant rather on the value formation side na maging second nature sa atin yung malinis na kapaligiran like in the case of Japan, Singapore. It's not that I'm trying to compare, di ba? Pero in other words, what I'm simply saying is you are in the national government. Local governments enforce the law.
Yeah.
Where is the marriage between the two para ma-achieve natin yung goals ng ating mga batas?
Actually, it's good you mentioned that, Hernani. Meron po tayong Environmental Education and Awareness Act 2008. So, I'm sure you'll agree with me. Kung tayo, during our time na we're educated on the importance of environmental protection, hindi po siguro nangyayari itong lahat na nakikita natin. So, we have that law. Meron na po sa curriculum natin ng pero maybe we have to step it up and give more attention with of course with the Department of Education para talagang, as you said, magiging second nature na.
Lip service kasi. By the way, pati yung mga garbage trucks are being regulated. What type of garbage truck dapat mong gamitin, di ba? So, small municipalities or cities cannot really afford it, di ba? Yun lang. So, you have Congress crafting all of these laws. You have NGOs lobbying for these laws. But the reality on the ground is, infrastructures are lacking. It is not affordable to some local governments. So, there's an imbalance, di ba, between the two. Sana mahanap mo yung solusyon ng problema to. And we trust you. You can find
Baka kailangan din tulong ng iba kasi hindi man lahat pwede kay DENR ang
other
di
agencies,
ba? Parang yung sinabi ko rin sa education, DepEd should be doing that. But let me just go back to, we were having a discussion before we started. You met with the president when you were appointed. And one of the things that he mentioned is how do you hasten the processes. One of the bottlenecks in DNR is what you mentioned a while ago, the environmental compliance certificate, the ECC. For many businessmen, they don't look at it as in environmental compliance more than it's so bothersome for us. And not to mention the fact that, and anecdotally, it's a source of graft inside DNR. Rather than just comply, I'll just pay you off in this bahala.
Thank you very much for that question, Sec Edwin. Actually, even prior to my appointment, since I am supervising the Environmental Management Bureau, we already sat down and our policy direction is already to review. May mga redundant reviews
Okay.
Paulit-ulit. And my marching orders said, let's not focus on processes because we want to help the economy, especially today, diba, with everything that's happening. Let's not focus on processes, but let's be stronger on enforcement and monitoring. Doon tayo nagkukulang Of course, kulang tayo ng manpower, which is why importante yung collaboration with other stakeholders. The LGU, we work with a lot of NGOs and the community. So, kailangan namin ng tulong ng iba. So,
Boss, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, that's what I wanted to say.
Boss Edwin, to give an idea, di ba? ECC, land conversion, starts with the barangay. Packet yun sa'yo because these are the rules na dapat makomply ng applicant. So, imagine that process alone. Hindi natin nasusunod yung timeline ng issuance because of the hindi ko alam kung long process or there's somewhere in between, di ba?
Well, to be honest, sometimes, siyempre, kulang din ng requirements pag sinasubmit. So, we return it Hindi mag-uumpisa tumakbo yung period na mandated na dapat sundan mo for review if kulang ang requirements. Hindi siya officially accepted. So, it's a combination. Yung review process talagang kailangan na balikan and i-review. At the same time, we also recommend that those submitting their environmental impact assessments use people that really know how to do it.
So you have an ECC and EIA. So let's assume, do you have a time, you're talking about hastening the process, although you're saying that let's emphasize enforcing, but the reality is it will take take time. If all the documents are in order, so can you come up with a timeline that is faster? Like, can you mandate a certain number of days? And then we will, assuming all the documents are complete, how many days will you be able to guarantee an applicant that your ECC, EIA will come out or be rejected? But before you answer that, the suppose we'll take a short break.
The spokes is back, still with Acting DENR Secretary Mitch Cuna, to continue with the ECC issue.
So we're talking about, can you come up, is there already a fixed time under the law, under your regulations, so that it can be followed strictly?
Yes, there are actually, Sec. Edwin. It's 20 and 40 days for non-environmentally critical projects. As long as kompleto na yung mga submissions, dapat 20 working days
Okay.
should be out. In the same manner, pag environmentally critical projects or projects in environmentally critical areas, 40 working days dapat
So what
nakalabas na.
happens if the agency, DNR doesn't comply with its own rules?
Well, that's the issue we have to address, na dapat talagang lalabas yan. But I'd like to point out that it's the path going to when we officially accept the documents. Dahil minsan, kulang-kulang, walang laman, may nahuhuli pa kaming cut and paste galing sa iba. So these are issues that have to be addressed.
So it shouldn't be blamed on government.
Not totally.
Right.
To really enforce the law on environment, medyo strict yung requirements.
Yes.
Because that's the essence.
Yes.
Yun ang importante, di ba? And complying sometimes with those requirements require experts.
Yes.
Di ba?
Right.
Kasi you will have to submit that
Yes,
na
yes.
ito yung gagalawin namin, ito yung kapalit yan. Di ba? Parang ganun eh.
Yeah.
So that really takes time.
Yeah, meron tayong portion na technical scoping kung tawagin. So,
Right, yes.
depending on the nature of the project, itong mga kailangan natin na studies that have been identified that would be possible impacts with the operation
Yan
of
ba
the
yung
project.
EIA? EIA
Yeah,
before ECC, di ba?
Yes, yes. Yun yung sinasubmit, yun yung pinag-aaralan. The ECC is yung actual issuance pagka...
But the EIA is commissioned, is done by the applicant, di ba?
Yes, by the applicant.
And then you
They may
review.
hire, unless they have an in-house that can do it,
Right.
they usually hire consultants. to do
And then from that, you base whether to issue an ECC.
Yes.
Okay.
And then just to clarify also this, there's a review committee, an environmental impact assessment review committee. So this is not all DNR. These are, some members are experts from the academe, from UP,
Right.
from or sociologists, depending on the nature of the
But those are
the project.
standby personnel.
Well,
You draw
they
them.
sign up.
Okay.
There's a group, there's a
Right.
list, and then
You pick
depending
them.
on the nature of the project, mamimili kung sinong dapat isama.
Question lang, Sec. From among the many applications ng ECC, ano yung pinaka-meticuloso that requires ECC? What industry, for example? Is mining
Mining
number
is one. Mining is one. Power plants. And then, ito siyempre, may mga bago tayo, itong mga offshore wind projects.
Right,
Medyo
right.
bago yan. So we needed technical assistance also from our development partners on paano ginagawa sa ibang bansa para tama yun. Kasi, siyempre, offshore wind, maglalagay ka sa dagat, how will it affect biodiversity? How
Yes.
so,
Malaking maraming development in technology. For instance, there are underwater data centers already
Yes,
being
yes.
done. Microsoft is doing that abroad, so it might be coming in. But let's talk about the updates on controversial mining issues. No? What's the situation in Dupax, Nueva Ecija, Pujada nickel project in Davao Oriental and Palawan?
With the Dupax was exploration permit lang siya. But, they went through the process. This is a mining company that already has an existing operation katabi niya. But very adamant against yung community. For a long time kasi yung mga local officials doon, nakasama mo naman yung iba, Sec. Hernani, that they have they're really against mining in the area. So na-suspend po namin, the MGB suspended it because one of the grounds for suspension is pag hindi na makontrol, to avoid any incident in the area. They could not do their exploration anymore peacefully dahil hinaharang ng mga tao, meron pa ngang sinirang mga equipment doon, so mahirap.
Question lang, as DNR Secretary, should we mine more? Should we mine less? Or should we mine differently? Kasi with all of these laws talaga, di ba?
But that's valid because we have a huge nickel resources
Yeah.
for EV.
Yeah, look,
Yeah.
just to make it clear, this is the first time in quite some time that the national government is supporting the sector. Okay? So, out of 30 million hectares of land, the entire Philippines, there are about 9 million hectares that have been identified as having deposits
Of
of various commodities.
yeah.
Right now, just to give you an idea, even if there are a lot of people who oppose and they're totally against the mining industry, there are only like 790,000 plus hectares that are covered by existing large-scale mining contracts. So
900.
that's like 2.64% of the total land area of the Philippines, of 30 million. So, maraming nagsasabi, napakaliit naman ng kontribusyon ng mining sector sa GDP natin. Pero ang hindi naiisip ng mga tao, dahil napakaliit po ng utilization natin eh. So that's the reason. And then, as you are all aware, malaki ang demand ngayon ng critical minerals.
Yes.
Okay? For the move to renewable energy, maraming naghahanap, nakatingin sa atin. There are a lot of visits we've had, meetings with different embassies. So maraming interesado. So we've entered into several memoranda of understanding with some countries regarding critical minerals. The US just a few weeks ago, the British Geological Survey. So meron tayo. Then in the pipeline, meron tayo. UAE wants to, we're in discussions. Canada.
But question lang. As a matter of policy lang, no? We allow extraction. Then these are brought somewhere else. Yes. At pag bumalik sa atin, finished materials. Like iron ore, for example. I suppose malaki deposit natin dito.
Malaki rin.
Malaki, because I think China is the number one buyer of our... As a matter of policy, you know the data. Is there a team, is there a group in the DNR which says, hey, Mr. So-and-so, why don't you just put up a processing plant dito because the country can supply you so that we can create more opportunities for our people rather than just export raw materials at buy them finished products from abroad. Do you have the team na can advise people, hey, pwede to?
Yes, there are in the Mines and Geosciences Bureau. In fact, there are processing plants already na binubukas. Not maybe in the scale of Indonesia yet, but we're moving towards that direction talaga. Kasi gusto natin, the President said it before, di ba? Value adding, importante para sa atin so that you maximize yung...
I have a question. Are we concerned about most of the big mining companies are now owned by China? The biggest one in Australia, I think, is also owned by China now. Are we concerned about Chinese coming in and mining? Because obviously we have some concerns about our relations with China in the respect of the West Philippine Sea. So are there more Chinese companies applying for mining rights? Although I know it's 60-40 yan, di ba?
Yes.
So, but is there a concern? Kasi marami tayong mga Chinese, for instance, the one that Senator Risa Ontiveros was saying he's not a Filipino citizen, Mr. Joseph C. is into mining. And then there's another, but that's I just wanted to ask if, is that a concern for us?
Definitely, it is a concern because this is a security issue. But we've been strict in checking on the papers ng mga tao, yung mga empleyado.
Right.
At syempre, that 60-40 arrangement na kailangan po natin, that it really is an issue. But on the other hand, Sec Edwin, unlike years ago, there are a lot of local corporations that are mining now, di ba?
Right.
I mean, maraming malalaking, compared to before, which is why I believe they're not going anywhere. They have a name to protect.
Nandito sila eh.
So it's of their best interest to be compliant.
But do they have the financial muscle to do it? Because mining requires, for instance, if you're going to mine gold, it takes years to mine gold.
Yes, they do. And if I mean, in these corporations, if they're lacking, then they partner with.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pag-JV.
So it shouldn't, are the Chinese investment lessening or in domestic
I don't have the
investment?
exact percentage, but lately, maraming mga local and other than from China. Yeah.
On another note, what is our policy on reclamation? general policy. Kasi I know of some local governments na nagre-reclaim pero hindi nagpapaalam eh.
About, talaga? Nakakagawa silang ganun?
Maliitan, di ba? All of a sudden, meron ng building doon, etc. in the guise of for tourism, di ba? But of course, the most controversial is Manila Bay when it comes to reclamation, di ba?
Well, reclamation, first of all, is not prohibited by law. In fact, there is an agency which actually deals with that square
PRA.
thing, di ba? From our point, basta mag-comply sila, they have to obtain an area clearance and an environmental compliance certificate from us. So that's where we
And I understand that because it was so controversial several months back or a year or two back, they have really done a lot of due diligence in making sure that they are compliant with all the concerns of the environment.
Yes, in fact, there was a cumulative impact assessment made, meaning taking into consideration all these projects, kung sabay-sabay naitayo yung mga to, ano yung magiging impact niya. It was done by scientists, experts from the UP Marine Science Institute. And so yun, para tinitignan kasi iba yung may ECC ka for a single project, pero ano magiging impact kapag nagtayo sabay-sabay yung mga to. So that was what was conducted.
How do you protect yung mga indigenous peoples natin when it comes to mining? Kasi most of the land that are being identified, mga indigenous people yung nakatira di ba? What is their share doon sa proceeds ng mining, for example?
They have a 1% royalty share based on the gross output.
It sounds small. It sounds small.
No, but it sounds small, but it's not.
It is huge.
At saka, over and above that, if they're the ones in the area, merong SDMP kung tawagin, Social Development Management Program, na mandatory. 1.5% of the total operational cost. So, malalaki to. I've seen the figures already. Malalaki to. And yung NCIP, dumadaan sa kanila yung FPIC, yung Free and Prior Informed Consent. Hindi ka makakalusot doon na, yun na hindi mag-agree yung mga tao doon at satisfied sila sa magiging agreements nila in terms of the sharing. Tapos, pinakialaman namin through a department order na yung SDMP, the Social Development Management Program, kailangan nagko-conform siya sa Sustainable Development Goals.
Don't get this wrong, Lea, pero narinig ko lang itong kwento to because I visited some mining sites before. Siyempre yung share minsan ng mga leader, ng mga IPs, pinapadala lang sa ATM card Yung ATM card nakasanla na sa inuman Look, seriously, complying, giving them resource, but in terms of development plans for that IP community, is that part of the proposal of a mining company before you issue an ECC, for example?
Not before an ECC, but kasama yun sa pag-uusapan. And I share your point, Sec. Nani. Kailangan talaga yung royalty at lahat ng benepisyo mo pupunta. There has to be some kind of system. And I've seen it in some mining companies. Kasi yung iba, siyempre pag naka-receive yung mga ibang mga tao, bibili ng sasakyan kaagad. Or imbis na gawing puhunan sa negosyo para sustainable siya.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Let's go to the tough questions part. What do you think will be the biggest environmental challenge you will face and the Philippines will face in the next 10 years?
If we don't address solid waste, I think that's one of the solid waste will be one of the biggest if we don't, address this properly in the next few years.
Let me ask you a follow-up question on that. How about our watershed? We have critical watershed. We have only one watershed, the La Mesa Dam, the Apo, di ba? That's for Metro Manila. And then you've got the Kaliwa and the Laguna. It's critical to us. I mean, water security is also a concern for us right now.
Yes. You mean for Metro Manila, the watershed? But all over, Marikina, there are a lot of the watersheds and we've partnered with so many already in terms of reforestation and binibigyan rin natin ng mga employment yung mga kababayan natin in terms of yung mga community-based forest management agreements para hindi lang reforestation, livelihood din nila. Sinasabayan natin ng mga fruit-bearing trees yung iba para maging sustainable. Kikita rin sila.
So wala tayong problema sa water supply?
Well, there are certain areas na may stress talaga. But,
Cebu, I think, as a problem, bohol pa nagagaling.
yeah,
di
and
ba?
then, and of course, yung mga island communities, they're having difficulty. Pero may mga projects tayo that we're trying to...
Okay.
It's like Mitch, no? You have a list of national parks in the country. And yet, some violate the rules within the national park by establishing resorts. And, you know,
Hindi.
di ba?
No,
At may ECC yun eh.
Hindi,
May mga ECC minsan yun, oh. Ano naalala mo?
Hindi.
Sa ano?
Yo.
Hindi.
That's
I'm
what I
happy.
mean.
No, sorry, Hernani. I'm happy that you brought that up.
Okay.
Because ang tinutukoy niyo po mga protected area, right?
Yes.
There's a mistaken notion that when an area is declared a protected area, totally no activity is
Okay.
allowed, which is really not the case. There's a strict protection zone and
Yes.
there's a multiple use zone.
Yes.
Isipin niyo po, kung minsan malalaki talaga yung protected area. Pag wala tayong pinayagang kahit anong activity, wala pong trabaho ang tao doon. And that's an issue.
I agree with that kasi yung 100 Islands National Park, which is about 800 hectares. Merong ecotourism zone, merong non-fishing zone and outside that is. Yeah,
So,
I agree.
para lang 19, kasi yung mga
Yeah.
tao, nako, bakit pinayagan to? As long as permitted siya, unang-una, kailangan ko muna ng PAMBI clearance. Protected Area Management Board. Whatever activity will be done within protected area, that has to go through there for their clearance. And then, kukuha ng ECC. Kung allowed siya. And it has to conform with the PAMPI, we call it, the Protected Area
I'm sure
Management
this is
Plan.
not during your time kaupo. Pero may naalala siyang resort kasi. Sabihin mo na.
Hindi, wag na. I have a next tough question for you. We have many politicians who have invested or have mining interests. Do you think, as a matter of policy, these politicians should be prevented from having mining interests? The thing is, because politicians really will put pressure. I've seen that they have mining interests. They really put pressure on the DNR. Yeah. And is that something that you'd like avoided?
Well, right now, whatever the existing laws are, there's no prohibition on politicians. But I'm sure they've divested or whatever. But as long as they comply with the law, I think that's the bottom line. Kahit sino pa man siya, basta nagko-comply sa rules and regulations and the law.
I think under the Constitution kasi, if you have an interest, you should not participate, di ba? There's but so, wala. Our law, we'll just implement whatever the law is.
Yes.
I'll go direct to the point, di ba? You go to Congress to have your budget approved. At alam natin na may mga congressmen, senator na engage in mining. Di ba? How will you address that problem?
Mitch,
In the
probo na
future.
yan.
No. Because it's a given reality.
Correct.
Hindi naman sila bawal mag-engage sa mining.
Correct.
Di ba? And yet, they have the power to approve or reject your budget.
I mean, that's the reality of it.
That's a reality.
Now that you're the secretary, maybe you were shielded when you were not the
Yeah.
cabinet secretary.
Well, as I said, I'll reiterate, basta mag-comply sila. Yung sa budget naman,
Alam mo,
Ba't ka natatawa? No,
unang araw lang nito dito, iniipit mo na
Hindi ko siya iniipit. I'm trying to test the Ateneo Law School.
We are meant for others.
No, look, it's a given
but
reality.
just joking, but
And
it's-
you will be judged by that. Considering na, don't get this wrongly, Mitch. Congress is embroiled in many controversies right now. In fact, they cannot even get away from it.
yeah.
Di ba? So, in other words, facing them, it might happen. But, look, dinaanan naman natin yan eh.
Yeah.
When these people ask for a request.
Alam mo, pareho naman tayong politiko, Hernani. Kakausapin natin sila,
Yeah.
di ba? We'll discuss with them, pero hindi natin palulusutin
Kung hindi pa
Tama,
rin.
tama, si Mitch.
Tsaka hindi sa comply.
Yes, I agree.
Di ba?
I
Talagang-
agree.
You will really demand from them to comply.
Just like everybody
Right.
else.
Yeah.
Just like everybody
Oo.
else.
Di ba?
In fact, going back, I think I mentioned this earlier. Sa experience ko, yung mga malalaking kumpanya, since they have the resources to comply, ginagawa nila. Tsaka, yung iba, listed pa sa stock exchange. So,
Yeah. It will
Pagka
impact
hindi,
on them,
it will
really.
impact on them.
I agree.
Mag-notice of violation lang, may tama
Tama,
na sila.
tama yun.
So, pasensya na, Sec
Hindi,
Mitch.
okay lang.
Congratulations.
Pasensya pagkatapos mo inipit. Magpapasensya
Okay,
ka.
look. Hindi ko siya inipit because it's a given
Eh,
reality.
magaling naman ang sagot niya. Naman.
At Ateneo Law School.
Hindi, no, but seriously, institutional memory, he knows how to
Totoo,
handle
totoo
it.
naman.
We have every confidence in you to handle those political
yeah.
Thank you very
pressures.
much, Nani and Sec.
Because that pressure will come from anybody anyway.
Yes.
Not just necessarily government. So, pasensya na, boss.
Anyway, so we'll see you there. We look forward to you serving as secretary.
Thank you very much.
Environmental policy is not just about trees, mines, or natural resources.
It is about how a country balances development with responsibility to protect what it cannot replace. Nani Agsalud Braganza po.
And Secretary Edwin Lacierda, I'm for, and we are the spokes.